Put that here. Come on. Put that. Do it again. Yeah. Feel that. Find it. Yeah.
What's good, family? Shout out to my doggy Lee Pike for sending in them much needed coins. Respect, General. So we got some breaking news right now. As you've seen at the start of this video, Anthony Zest Johnston has been banging the pads in training. Now, many of you have been, YB, you're a turncoat, YB, you keep saying you got some little piece of good news to come. YB, why do you always ride Anthony Johnston? Now, I did say a little while ago that there's some okay things. I'm not going to sit here and gas you and tell you, oh, it's all well and good and let's sing Kumbaya together about the situation, but I'm not a shill. I'm not someone who is paid, or I'm not someone who is just going to drive a narrative regardless of the facts. I go where the facts are. So on that basis, looking at this footage, is it positive or is it negative? Put it this way, it's not bad to see this footage, is it? But, of course, I'm going to get the commentaries, or I'm going to get the standard lines out there. We know this is only training, it's only bag work, or it's only pad work. And AJ, to be fair, even when AJ was with Rob McCrappen, I will admit, actually, I was critical of AJ's Rob McCrappen work, because even on the pads, you'd hear Rob McCrappen saying things like, that's it, AJ, nice and slow, nice and calm, nice and slow, he's trying to kill the vibe. Obviously, I appreciate you don't want to go wild and blow your load, but the crazy thing is, AJ ended up going wild anyway, because I believe you have to tame the beast. You have to tame ferociousness. You can't just block it out. I believe AJ and his team have completely blocked out and neglected the ferocious side. You have to train ferociousness. And that's why you see people like Alvarez. Look at him earlier in his career. Alvarez was more of a combination puncher. He wouldn't focus on accuracy and spite. He'd focus on getting 3 or 4 off at once. But over time, they've harnessed ferociousness, and now you see him thumping. Now you see him punching the life out of people in 1 or 2 shots. That's what I believe should have happened with Anthony Johnston, and that's what would have happened if I'd have been in the camp. Would have honed the power and the force into 1 or 2 devastating shots at a time. Whereas, what do we know? In AJ's recent fight against Pulev, he letting off 15 sloppy shots, missing most of them. Hitting the guard with all of them. There's no finesse, there's no accuracy, because it's not been tamed. And what happens when you're in a fight and you clip someone and you see they're hurt and your adrenaline drops, when you haven't been finessed, when you haven't had your mind and your body properly trained, you end up just going back into the primitive way of doing things, swinging big left and rights. You end up going low IQ. And don't forget, that Pulev fight was 2 years into AJ's new training with his new trainers, aka they're a bunch of bums. That's what the conclusion is there. Now, the footage you see here, there's 2 videos. You see one with this new guy, this new Dubai cat called Anthony Chill Wilson, I think. Never heard of him, but either way, people have been gassing him. Oh, YB, he's with Chill Wilson. I don't give a who he with. How about that? I just don't. At this point in time, honestly, the only person I know can get this done is me. That's the truth. And Shane McGuigan. I'll give Shane a credit. But for sure, I know I can get it done. That's it. I'm not going to give... From now on, I ain't giving no one else no more credit. Because until I'm there, I don't believe it. Do you understand? I'm sick of giving people credit. No more credit being given. It's the YB or nothing. Or bust. Because guess what? When I'm there, we know it's going to get done. There's an old saying. If you want someone doing, yeah, do it yourself. How many years have I sat here and said, well, it could be this, and maybe if you... No, I'm not doing it no more. It's me or nothing. How about that? Because that's the only way we're going to know it's getting done. Because I'll be there to watch it all, step by step, minute by minute, micromanaging. All this other delegation crap don't work. No good. Not for this task. This guy needs concentrated You know what I'm saying? He needs someone on his back. And you best believe, you've seen the videos, I stay on his back. I stay on his neck as well. I stay all over him, 100%. He can't, I'm like a rash on Johnston, and rightfully so, that's what he need. He need a big, aggressive rash on him. But yeah, listen. You see the footage, he doing the pads with some next Don called Chill Wilson from the UAE. And he also doing pads with his old trainer. What's the guy's name? That's the Jobber Wilson, that's it, Jobber. Yeah, now Jobber, I mean, these guys, I don't know Chill, but I've never heard of him. So that's the bottom line there. I ain't got a clue who the guy is, bottom line. But what the positive parts I'm talking about here is obviously he's putting combinations together. In that Usyk fight, yeah, we didn't see no combinations. Call me a liar. There weren't none. All I saw was this weird little fanny jab, and then maybe a little piece of right hand. That was it. I think he threw 1 or 2 uppercuts in the 6th or 7th round, and that was his best shots. And scarily enough, no word of a lie, I ended up going crazy in that 6th or 7th round when he threw 2 shots, because he landed them, and Usyk looked like he saw a ghost, honestly. Usyk looked shocked. You could tell he was rocked to his boots. And I literally went mad saying, yeah, finally, the tables are about to turn. Then obviously AJ went back to the corner, and his corner told him, what are you doing? Back off. Get nice and easy behind the jab. Make sure you're nice and light on your toes. Light on your toes. You can't get off heavy shots being light on your toes. You can't get off any shots really being light on your toes. Watch Fury versus Klitschko. That's the definition of being light on your toes. You weren't landing nothing worth landing. Get your knees nice and bent, nice and stiff, and plod forward. That's what AJ need to do. Don't worry about nothing else. About light on your feet for what? Being light on your feet is what you need to do when you're scared and you're running. I want you heavy on your feet. I want you plodding forward like a tank. That's honestly, people laugh at me, but that's what you need to do. And when I go in there with Tyrone, that's what you're going to see. Why be going in like a tank? I'm going to plod forward. And I guarantee you won't have seen a guard as tight as the white bees. Going straight forward like a tank. Walking straight in. Yeah? And it's all of your shots are going to go on my gloves and arms, and then we're going to see what go on. Do you understand? Then we're going to see what's good. Because these shots are pity-patty, and I'm going to dig. And he going to know about it. How about that? Yeah, and that's the game plan. When you've got certain attributes, that's all there is to it. We know AJ he's not a guy who can get clipped with one shot and go cold sleep. But he doesn't use that. He's scared. I don't get what he's scared of. He's never been clipped once and been cold out. But yet he's scared of being hit. And I wouldn't mind, but his defense is leaky anyway. It's not like he had 10 out of 10 defense. But specifically back to this video footage, obviously, again, he's combination punching. But like I say, the problem is, he's always everyone who doesn't combination punch on the pads. But the good signs I saw was the fact he's walking forward, and he was kind of cutting the ring off against Chill Wilson. Something he wasn't cutting the ring off against Usyk. And that's what AJ used to be renowned for, cutting the ring off. Renowned for it. He'd go in there, he'd move forward, he'd cut the ring off. Watch Joe Parker fight. AJ cut the ring off the whole night and backed Joe up. That's what AJ was renowned for, backing people up. He hasn't done that for years, literally. Ever since to be honest, even before the Ruiz fight, even in the first Ruiz fight, he didn't back Ruiz up. He was dancing around. So I'm hoping. I'd like to think that's their strategy. I'd like to think he's training to cut the ring off. But the problematic thing is that I've seen footage of him doing sparring, and unfortunately it was the opposite. And unfortunately, and this is the problem, you see, you have to have someone in the camp who understands more than just. I feel like AJ's camp here is split up into 30 different parts. He's got the S&C coach. He's got the breathing coach. He's got the motivational coach. He's got the arms coach. He's got the legs coach. He's got the benching coach. He's got the weightlifting coach. He's got the bodybuilding coach. He's got the muscle sculpturing coach. He's got the mind frame coach. It's got all these different coaches, and they're all just doing their own little thing. Now, when you think about the great trainers of all time, what do you know about them? Yamato was the full package in himself. Yeah. When you look at people like Yamato and the YB and Manny Stewart, us, man, we're holistic. We don't need a whole bag of man in the team. We can do it all. Do you understand? AJ's team, they're all bums, so they all can only do about one thing at once. They ain't looking at things from 10,000 feet. People like the YB, Curse, and Manny, us, man, we're in a different kind of league. Yeah? Well, I'm not saying that myself. That's what people say of us. Yeah? When people talk about Curse and Manny and the YB, they're the kind of things they say, for example. That's what greatness is in this game. Being able to do it all and put it all together. And when you look at AJ's performances, they're sketchy, aren't they? Proper sketchy performances. I mean, he was asking the security guard for advice. If that don't tell you sketchy.com, I don't know what does. Because I can guarantee you this. If I went in the camp, if he was with me for 6 months, there won't be no questioning this, that, and the other. You'd know exactly what you're going to do. There'd be no questions, and that's the thing. I'm not even criticising AJ necessarily in that department, because if AJ's questioning things on the night of the fight, that's actually on the... I'd take that personally. If I was a trainer and my fighters questioning things and asking people questions the day before the fight, or on the day of the fight, I'd be thinking, what does that say about me, that I've been in camp for 6 months and this guy ain't got a clue what he's doing? Yeah? But the problem is, a lot of these guys like Ido Portal and these touch butt cats, they spend way too much time watching YouTube videos and watching these weird, goofy flow state. You know, ones there. Now, I'm not saying flow state is flow state, but flows like these you got these new age cats, yeah. These new age cats like Ido Portal and touch butt and flow state. They hear these buzzwords. They're complete casuals, have no idea what they're talking about. They hear buzzwords and they spend so much time talking about ayahuasca. And you know what I'm saying? Rather than understanding, listen, you can talk about all the ayahuasca and all the flow state you want, but ultimately you can have to bend your knees, yeah, get your chin down, get your elbows in and plough forward. Do you understand? That's the difference between me and Mr. Fernando Alonso and whatever other goofies AJ working with. Me, I get the whole lot of it. Them AJ Goofy team be sitting there talking about ayahuasca and the flow state and AJ he ain't smart. He ain't that smart that he can see. He gets caught up in it all, and that's why he's all muffled, isn't it? He's all over the place, isn't he? You don't know what he's talking about half the time because his head's scrambled with a whole bunch of fruity man. That's the bottom line. Yeah, you have to understand the athlete you're dealing with. He don't need to be confused with a million different things. And to be honest, I'm not even blaming AJ's team, because they don't know what they don't know either. They're just trying to get through life like everyone else. It's not their fault they're 60 IQ themselves. But that's why really, back in the olden days, you'd have proper promoters, who actually understood the game from a higher level view. They ended back in the day, yeah. These higher level people, these real because today, yeah, managers don't mean what it used to. A manager used to be a man who's been around the sport for 30 years, has seen it, done it, and has experienced a lot of people's careers. How many careers has 258 Management managed? 258 Management have never managed another boxer. Do you think that makes sense for someone who had the potential to be the best in the world? Does that sound like a good idea to you? Oh, well, and the way they sold it to AJ was, we'll grow together. Well, unfortunately, growing together doesn't mean optimal. Growing together doesn't mean greatest of all time. You need someone who can tell you, listen, AJ, I've been in this game 30 years. I saw Nigel Benn when he was with a bum trainer, and it ended up bad for him. You know what I'm saying? For example, you need to be able to see these signs. And I believe someone in there who can see the signs would have said, AJ, your team's full of bums and your team's blowing smoke up your ass. But name me one person in AJ's team, yeah, who actually sat down or name me one person in AJ's team who you think had the authority or had anything. Yeah, just name me one person in the team who you think would or could or, you know what I mean, had done that. No one had. For months I was begging Eddie, say something, man. How do you not see where this is going? But even Eddie, he just seems to be, I don't know what he's doing, to be honest. And the crazy thing is, now finally Eddie, oh yeah, well AJ needs to move on from Rob. I think it's played out. What? It's just too late. It's too little, too late. And I think Eddie actually got caught up in the, the hype of it. He thought, oh, AJ's hardworking. I think Eddie thought, because AJ's always in the gym, Eddie thought, well, he's always in the gym, so he must be doing something right. As long as you're in the gym, you're going to be getting better. That's what Eddie Hearn thought. He didn't realise that if you're in the gym for a bunch of muppets, you're actually going to get worse. But anyway, listen. So AJ doing the pads now, he banging the pads, but he always been banging the pads to some extent. I've done videos on it in the past. Banging the pads don't really mean much. And unfortunately, I've seen videos from this same camp in the last few weeks, and AJ, when it comes to sparring, he looking nervous. He dancing out, he disengaging. And that's the thing here. AJ's pad man, doing all these funny things on the pads. I did a video on it, AJ doing all these choreographed moves on the pads and whatnot. Way too complicating it way too much. And I know this is what Fernando's doing. Fernando's a muppet. Yeah? He spent all his time working out these funny combinations and funny tricks and footwork. AJ ain't Lomachenko. Let's get that straight. You're not ever going to be Lomachenko, AJ. Please understand that. You're never going to be it. Yeah, I know you think you're really smart and you're not going to be that. Let me tell you now. You're never going to be Usyk. You're never going to be Lomachenko. And you're never going to be Roy Jones. Whilst we're there. Let's get rid of that. Your best chance is to become a badass bruiser. Yeah, that's your best chance. Your best chance is to be a big thudder. If you don't think you can do that, or if you don't want to do that, you retire. Because you ain't going to be nothing else, I'm afraid. You don't have the gas tank for it. You're made to be explosive. You've got about 6 rounds in you. And then you're going to have to learn to just hug like Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson would go in there, give 6 rounds, and then it'd be a hug fest for the last 6. That's a fact. And to be honest, most of the big heavyweights, that's how it used to be. 6 rounds and just be a big hug fest for the last 6. But the chances are, when you go in there for 6 rounds, 99% of people are getting blown out. And Usyk should have been blown out on that basis. If AJ had gone in there, we saw AJ throw two good shots, and Usyk looked ready to tap out. I kid you not. You man know I'm the first person to ride AJ, yeah, but them in that round, AJ threw 2 shots, and Usyk looked shocked. He looked ready he didn't want to be there no more. I couldn't believe it. But AJ didn't capitalise, and by then it was already the 8th round, and AJ was goosed. Too little, too late. Yeah, being an explosive athlete, them first rounds, you've got to use them. You got to. You can't piddle around for 6 rounds and you're already half gassed. What's the point in that? Equally, you can't go in there and just swing left and right. You've got to be in there putting smart and consistent work together. There really isn't a better blueprint than Alvarez at the moment for AJ. AJ should be grateful he's got a blueprint like Alvarez to model his own performances off of. It's crazy. I saw a video. AJ himself said, I want to if I fight Fury, I want to fight something similar to Alvarez. What happened to that? Watch the Usyk fight. What part of that looks like Alvarez? And that's why I've made critiques in the past saying, wait a minute, if AJ says he wants to look like Alvarez and he ends up looking like Mr. Floppy, Mr. Boogaloo Bear, yeah? Mr. Friendly, Mr. Boogaloo, how is he not putting 2 and 2 together and saying, wait a minute, there's clearly a catastrophic breakdown here. I've requested my team to train me like Alvarez. How the F am I in there like Mr. Boogaloo, the Friendly Bear? Yeah? It don't make sense. And now, AJ comes out, well, don't worry, we've fixed it. We've had a big review, and it turns out basically no one's left the team. It turns out AJ still got the number one culprit, Fernando Alonso, in the camp. I don't get how you can take AJ and want to train him to be a fanny. I don't get that. Anyone who knows anything about boxing would know, this guy, he's made to get stuck in. As in, his outline. Now, I'm not sure, maybe psychologically, there's a good chance, to be fair to his training team, there's a good chance from what I've heard, that AJ's told his training team, listen, I don't want to be in hard fights, and I don't want to get hit, and I want to be, I don't want to end up a cabbage. Now, not ending up a cabbage, and is not the same, because do you think Alvarez is going to end up a cabbage? No. So it's not about, but equally, the reason Alvarez is so proficient is because he's not afraid to get hit. The minute you go into a fight and your main goal is not getting hit, it changes the whole dynamic. Alvarez goes in there, he doesn't try to get hit, he's evasive, he's slick, but he accepts it. That's a part of pressure fighting. Mike Tyson in his prime accepted it as well. Yep, I can slip and slide, but I'm going to get hit still, coming in. As an aggressive fighter, you have to accept that. You're going to get hit. You'd think you'd accept that in boxing, full stop. But the problem is, these new age guys, don't worry AJ, apples and pears. I've got a special strategy to sell you. AJ himself even came out and said, I'm working with this guy, and he's got this special thing from the 70s, and it means that we don't have to get hit, and there's a special way. It's mad. AJ, there's no special way to get to where you want to go if you want to be considered the greatest. It's going to be hard, and you're going to get hit, and you may get knocked out. Well, to be fair, actually, I don't agree with that. There's no one good enough today, I don't believe, to knock AJ out on his job. Today, though, AJ with his current team, Fury will knock him out. Yeah? Most people will knock him out, but AJ maximised. AJ with a YB in the corner, no one knocks him out. I actually believe if I was there, he wouldn't even get put down again in his career. I don't believe it. And I equally don't believe Fury would go 12 rounds. I think we'd stop Fury. And I think Fury wouldn't put us down, and we get the stoppage. In fact, if I was in the camp, I'd bet we stop everyone from now on. And if we didn't stop everyone, I wouldn't be paid either. That's the bottom line. From now on, all W's and all KOs. That would be the guarantee. Now, I'm not going to guarantee within 6 rounds, but certainly within 12 rounds, AJ, in my opinion, will stop everyone. With me there. Yeah? That's the bottom line. These other guys, well, you see how it plays out. You get beat by everyone. You get beat by Ruiz. You get beat by Usyk. You get beat by everyone. So, it is what it is, man. Bottom line. I wanted to do the video to show you, man, that I don't give a F what you, man, think, but this footage ain't bad. Like I said, he cutting the ring off and but it's only pads. And I'll believe it when I see it. It's nice to see heavy shots being thrown. It's nice to see whipping shot, but you've got to implement that. I'm sure AJ was able to whip shots on the pads before the Usyk fight. Has he turned a leaf? Well, it's too early to say. We won't know until we know. Yeah? But nonetheless, if he gets a few of these off, and I believe AJ needs to come out how Usyk did, even more aggressively. AJ needs to come out here and legitimately, if I was training AJ, we wouldn't be taking a back step for the first 3 rounds at least. That's the bottom line. We're going to show Usyk, and that's actually a strategy Alvarez used against Golovkin. In the Golovkin rematch, Alvarez didn't look to move backwards for the first few rounds. He was actually the first fighter to back up Triple G. I've never seen a fighter make Triple G box. And after the fight, Golovkin came out and said, I wanted to show something different. I wanted to show I could box. Get out of here. No fighter, yeah, who's known for knocking people out, and no fighter who's known to be the Terminator, all of a sudden wants to prove he can box. No. Alvarez out-game planned Golovkin. Alvarez out-Golovkined Golovkin in that second fight. Now, the first fight, I think Golovkin probably won it. But the second one, there was no doubt. No doubt whatsoever. That's what greatness is. Greatness is going in there with a Terminator and out-Terminatoring the Terminator. That takes self-belief. And the thing is as well, what really frustrates me about AJ is the fact that he actually has no excuse. Like, he's got all the gifts. And he's also in a very weak era. I'd argue there's no one in the division who's like Golovkin. Does that make sense? If Alvarez was able to go up a weight and fight someone who was considered to be much more ruthless than himself, at that particular, I know whatever. Like, I remember at the time. Yeah, I remember at the time saying, "There's no way Alvarez is going to go up and fight Golovkin at 160." I thought, "There's no way. He won't want to do it." Guess what? AJ, we're not asking you to go up in weight. In fact, you're fighting people smaller than you 90% of the time. Joseph Parker, smaller. Usyk, definitely smaller. So if Alvarez can come up and fight a much more formidable opponent, there's no excuse for you to be making a hash of fighting people smaller than you and who are much less Terminator-ish. It's embarrassing, honestly, and that's why I'm so harsh. Because I'm embarrassed for the whole situation. It's a joke. It's laughable. We are a laughing stock. AJ is a laughing stock, and anyone who had any belief in him is equally a laughing stock. And there's no easy way to say it, but it must be said. Yeah, there's too many people already surrounding AJ, blowing smoke up his ass, telling him it's acceptable. It's not. It's not acceptable for you to be losing to cruiserweights. I'm afraid it's not. And the way you lost as well. You was the closest thing to TKO'd as can be. The ropes was holding you up at the end. You was gassed. But anyway, let's see what happens.